Welcome to Financial Fridays.
Yes. Hi.
Today's topic is building credit, how to manage your credit cards, and credit in general.
Yes. Yes. So we're excited to talk about this. We actually just talked about it last night as we did a class last night. Great questions out of it, actually. So we'll talk about a little bit more in depth on it today.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, we wanted to expand on this because we get a lot of questions throughout our classes on how do we manage credit cards and credit. And I know for me, it was something that I really wasn't taught growing up. In actuality, I was taught that credit is bad, credit is, you go into debt because of it, but it actually is and I didn't actually learn this until I was well over 18 on credit cards or in credit in general. Hopefully you guys will learn before I did. But in actuality, if you know the system and you know how basically playing the game is, it works to your advantage. So um, I'll have you start then with some
Sure.
things that maybe you learned.
Yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit about my journey with credit too, because I didn't grow up in the U.S. So when I moved here, I was already 20 years old. Never had a credit card, never had a loan of any kind, never had student loans either. But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start school, so I started school, and that was my kind of my introduction to credit in a way that I didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You get student loans because you need them to go to school. So I did that, and then yeah, I think that was my first experience with credit was having to pay those off, right,
Mm-hmm.
or having to start making payments to them. And I didn't get a credit card until I was 25. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well over 18, like you said. So
Mm-hmm.
my experience with credit started kind of at 21 probably,
Mm-hmm.
when I got my first student loan. um, but I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't learn about that until I started working in this kind of field, like nonprofit, financial education sort of stuff.
So I didn't get my first credit card until I was, I think actually the same age, 25.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was because I was on the journey to trying to buy a home and build up my credit. I do remember when I first got my credit pulled was actually when I had bought my first car.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, realizing what my credit score was at that time, I could have just bought a home at that point, and I didn't know because I thought you had to rent first and then buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
So now, knowing all that I do now, I'm like, I wish I would have done things a little bit differently. I wish I would have been taught homeownership earlier and what the credit score was and how
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, those sort of things of what to do with it. And specifically with credit cards, though, like I did not have my first one until I was 25 because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to pay it. I didn't know what the how much that I could get. You know, what were the limits and everything like
Mm-hmm.
that. So um, with that being said, then there are a lot of myths that coincide with having a credit card that I wanted to address because there's a lot of misinformation out there that I think that it scares some people that
Mm-hmm.
because they hear it and they think that it's true that they don't want to start using credit or credit cards in general. So one that we had talked about earlier was the fact that if you have a credit card, you have to pay it to zero every month when you have a balance on it. And that's like the quickest way to get your credit score up. When actuality it is not. And I also say this because of budgeting wise, sometimes we don't have the capacity to
Mm-hmm.
pay it down to zero. So then we beat ourselves up because we don't have the amount that next month before the end of the cycle or the billing cycle. So rather you pay it down to zero or above the minimum balance when the credit card is due. Either way does not make your credit score go up faster. So if you don't have the full amount to get your payment to zero, it's going to be the same effect as if you were to pay above the minimum balance the next month. And I think that's a myth because a lot of people are like, well, I'm not going to have a full however much it is by next month, so I'm just not going to get credit at all.
Yeah.
And that should, I hope, don't stop people from getting credit, which I know it is. It did for me because when I first, I was like, if I have a $200 limit and I spend that whole $200, then I need to have that full amount by next month, and sometimes I won't, and
Yeah.
I know that I won't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Especially with beating yourself up for things, for not having enough to pay off the full card. Usually when we use a credit card, in a bigger chunks, is because we have an emergency, because we have a big
Right.
need, right? It's not,
Right.
hopefully, we're not using that credit card just to shop for things that we want, but
Right.
hopefully that credit card is something that can help us with like emergencies or
Right.
big needs that we have that we don't have the money for.
Yeah.
Ideally, that's how you want to use a credit card, right? Like if in an ideal world, you want to use a credit card for needs, not for wants. I know that doesn't,
Yeah.
it's not true all the time, but ideally that's what you want. So if you're struggling to come up with the full amount, know that if you pay it down to less than 30% is really, really good, as long as you do that.
Yep.
And yeah, I always say like leave something there for the next month. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, and yes, you'll pay interest, but it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be such a big deal, if you're organized with it.
Right. Which also brings me to, you said the interest of it, reading what the terms of your credit card or your card is, or even if you get a loan for your car or anything like that, just make sure you read the fine print. I know sometimes I get a lot of people that come to me and stating that they want to close their credit card because there's an annual fee because they're not using it, or there's an annual fee because they haven't been using it. Now they owe because, there's an annual fee because they didn't read that ahead of time. So when you sign up for a credit card, just make sure that you know how many, if there's fees for not using it, if there is an annual fee, or if you get rewards, all of those things first. So that way you know if it is the right credit card for you, but also if you don't use it for a while, will you be penalized for it? Because I get a lot of times where I want to close it because I don't use it, and I'm getting penalized because I'm not using it. But then you have, well, how long have you had it? Oh, I've had it for like 10 years. And I'm like, that's a length of credit history that is gone. I get that you're getting, an annual fee, but also you lose that credit history once you close it. So it's like we have to figure out what is more important. Is there another way that you can use it? Can you put a Hulu subscription on it, or Netflix, or something to at least like keep it going, that you're paying just a little bit every month on
Something monthly,
Right.
that's already in your budget, right?
Right. Yes. Yes. So, and there's also like the store credit cards too. I had somebody who was transitioning from home ownership to rental, and so they didn't really need a Lowe's credit card anymore because they bought a refrigerator with it. They don't need to do it. They don't do yard work anymore, so there wasn't really any reason to go to Lowe's anymore. So it's like,
Plants, come on.
well, there you go. Yeah, so Lowe's does have a lot of things other than just that stuff. So
This is not an advertising for
right,
Lowe's, but
no, it could be any
Could be
Home
any
Depot, Menards, or any like back in the day when I was growing up, it was Victoria's Secret, all those like store credit
the
cards that
soaps.
nobody goes to anymore. But just the trying to see if there is a way that we could still use it, even though you don't need anything like batteries. They have flashlights. They have, all these kinds of things that maybe you could still use it for. But if that is the case, if like we aren't able to go there anymore physically, like maybe we're not able to get transportation there, what is if we are not going to get credit in the future here, closing that credit card, what does that look like? So in making sure when you do store credit cards that it is something that's going to be long term. So like I think of like Myers or Costco, you can
Yeah.
use it for multiple different things, gas and
Yeah.
groceries. Like you're always going to need those kind of things, right?
Yeah, as long as you can also use that card outside of that store, right?
That
Because
too.
usually you can,
That too.
but sometimes you don't get any benefits if you use it outside of that
That's true.
store, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so think really really critically about that,
Mm-hmm.
and you know how many credit cards, because you brought that up, like
Yeah.
how do you
Mm-hmm.
manage those, right? Like how
Yeah.
many credit cards should you have? Because I kept hearing before I got my first credit card, oh, you need at least 5 credit cards.
Right.
Like 5 credit cards will help you. And like when I started looking into it, 5 credit cards is the same line of credit, right?
Yeah.
It's one type of credit
Mm-hmm.
that is not going to help your variety.
Right.
No matter how different the stores are, it's one line of credit. It's the same item. You just have it multiple times, and that's
Yeah.
not really building up that variety as much as getting a personal loan, a car loan, and a credit card. Those are
Right.
three completely different types of lines of credit that you have. So then, that can help you more than just having a bunch of credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how do you manage?
Yeah.
I have, I think I have like 3 credit cards at this point, and sometimes I forget which one I use for what
Mm-hmm.
because I have a lot of automatic things on them, and the payment is automatic too, so it helps. But yeah, sometimes it's like, which one do I have this subscription with? Which
Right.
one
Yeah.
did I use last time for whatever?
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep track of all things. So if you really think about it, if you're having trouble keeping track of your budget, how can you manage credit cards? Like
Right.
that, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the length of credit too.
Mm-hmm.
But length of credit, that credit card that I got when I was 25 is helping me more than the one that I got 2 years ago. Even if the 2 year ago one, I got it because of a specific need or it has really good interest rate or whatever. Even then, the $500 credit card that I got from my bank, you know, many years ago, let's just say that, is helping me a lot more. Those student loans that I had helped me more than the credit card did because they're
That's true.
older.
Yeah.
So even if that's not a super, significant chunk of what my credit is formed or how my credit is formed, it does help, to just have that history with you.
Yeah.
So we hate student loans, but if they're paid, as long as we have a payment plan, as long as we have some way of paying those off, even if we're working on it, those are helping us more than the credit card.
Yeah.
Unless you got both of them at the same time, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, and paying those off, people will say like, oh, don't pay things off because then your credit will go down. It doesn't matter. Like it will go up afterwards, but that history will stay with you even if you finish paying something off.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't have any credit cards right now, I would say first step maybe getting a secured credit card. So that way you can get the lay of the land. A secured credit card is where you put some money up front. Usually every credit card entity, whether it's a bank or an actual like Discover, Capital One, will have a minimum that you have to put up. So just making sure that it's something that you can afford. But also, it will help you if for some reason you're not able to pay it. It will have that money already in place. So that way, they basically don't have a loss. But that's a great way to start. So that way, you can just get used to what actually it would be. And sometimes secured credit cards become into unsecured because if you're doing very well, they'll up your limit even past what you have already put in. So it's a great way to start. Also, which a concept that I didn't know about until doing this work is becoming an authorized user on somebody else's credit card. That you would have to know somebody that you trust and know what their credit is like and everything, and they also have to trust you, vice versa, because you do have access to it. But even seeing if there's somebody that you can have your name be an authorized user on their credit card as well too. So those are a couple of steps that maybe if you are wanting to build up your credit and where do you start, those could be some things. And ask your bank. If you already have a bank, just ask them since you already bank with them. I see it's a lot easier, especially if you're paying off your balance. If you already have a bank account with them, it's a lot easier to just transfer money onto your bank
Yeah.
card. Do you have anything to add on?
You can get secured loans as well.
Yeah.
Not all banks have them, but sometimes they call it credit builder, credit
Yeah.
development. They call it just different names, but it's basically a secured loan. So you bring, let's say, $1,000 to the bank, which is a lot of money, but you can still, you can budget for it, you can save for it, and then do that. But you can bring $1,000, and that becomes your loan amount basically. But you basically just, well, actually, you don't bring that. That's for the credit card.
Yeah.
That's my mistake. So for the secured loans, the bank pretends to give you a loan for $1,000, let's say, and you make payments every month until you save up to $1,000 on that account. So then you just keep depositing, and that credit history can build up really quickly. And also you're paying off. It's a fake loan, but it's really just a savings account.
Yeah.
So it's a savings account that's gonna help you build credit. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, like at the end of it, you have $1,000 in the bank. You may have more because of interest. And you can use that for something else, right? You can make that into a $2,000, depending on what the bank has options for. Banks or credit unions, they both have that type of loans. Not all of them do, but you can figure out like some of them that have that program. And we would need to check to see if the list that we have is updated. But if you have questions about it, just send us an email, and we can send you a list of banks that we think have that program that we have checked in the past, and we can double check for you.
Yeah, I actually did a couple of those. Actually, I did one for 500 and I did one for 1,500. And I simultaneously paid both of them, and by the end I actually did it for a full year. So it was specifically for a purpose, for my birthday. But I ended up using it for something else, of course, because but the emergency funds were there, and then also simultaneously my credit was getting built up too. So those do work. So just ask your bank if they have that type of loans that you can put money into it, and it could be any amount that you want to. They usually have a minimum, but it's a double whammy of actually like saving and also building your credit.
Yeah, that can really help. And I do want to talk about how to check your credit score, because I feel like that's one of the questions that comes up usually. And people talk about Credit Karma is one of the options, then checking it with your bank or credit union, or like your credit card if you already have one. And also you can do that with Experian or TransUnion or directly with them. So there are many options. I usually check it with my credit card companies. So I have the 2 credit cards that have that option, and I check it there. And as long as it's the FICO score, that's the one that lenders use. Credit Karma might use a different one. If Credit Karma gives you a FICO score, great. You can trust it that it's really close to the actual your actual credit score. But I don't want to be an advertising for any of these services, because it really depends on what you need, how you prefer to do things. But those are some options that you can have to check your score. Now, to check your credit report, I would recommend annualcreditreport.com, and we can put it in the comments afterwards. If you have any questions about it, let us know. But that one is the one that the government recommends to look at your credit report, and it gives you the report. It doesn't give you a score. You can pay for the score, but I really think that it's good to check on what's on your credit report to see that the accounts that show up there are actually your accounts.
And as of August of 2024, you actually can check your credit report every week through each credit bureau for free. So the reason why they did that is because also the Social Security card breach of last year. And originally with COVID, they had opened it up as well to be, I believe, every week. And they were going to switch it because COVID technically ended, right? But because of the Social Security breach, they actually permanently are having you be able to check your credit report, not your credit score, but your credit report on each credit bureau for free. So don't know why you would need to check weekly, but also they're not really telling anybody. I haven't gotten a notification of or know of anybody that got a notification that their credit or social security card or number has been stolen. But it was just to, to make sure that if anything were to happen, that people can see it within week to week instead of yearly, because a lot can happen in a year with somebody having your social security information. So just to put that little plug out there as well too. So you can do that weekly now.
And if you're not using credit at all, you're not checking credit at all, you have the accounts that you want and you're just working on building it up, I would always recommend to freeze your credit if you're not using it for anything.
Definitely.
You can still check your score, you can still check your credit report, you just can't add any accounts. So that can help if you're not sure if someone's using your credit. You can freeze it, it's free. You just have to create accounts with each one of the bureaus and do it through each one. But it is a good way to do things if you're not using credit at all. But you're just working on your own credit cards or loans or whatever you have. Because it's just a safer way of doing things.
Especially right now. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we're open to any questions. If you comment on the video or if you send us an email, we have housingcounseling@homerepairservices.org is our email address. We both check it. So if you have questions about it, you can email us. You can also take our classes. We have a bunch of classes that can help with credit. We have financial capabilities, money matters, financial Fridays that we're doing it like now. And then we have a bunch of special classes that might be coming up as well. Our Show Me the Money Day event is coming up May 17th as well. And that one will have a couple of credit workshops that you can attend if credit is the thing that you're looking for more information.
Yeah, definitely. So make sure you like, subscribe, and follow our page as well too on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and our
YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, that's right. Thank you all for listening though, and hopefully you learned something from this. And this is one of the subjects that we do like to talk about and wish that it was talked about a lot more. And hopefully, if you have any questions, just let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.